Good morning. Did you miss us? We missed you. Welcome to the upper deck. I'm Lynn, and next to me is Ciarra. And wow, we got a lot to get into with just 3 spring training games under our belt. What's going on, Ciarra?
Good morning, Lynn, and good morning to the chat. I missed everybody last Sunday. I'm glad you're feeling better, and I'm glad to be home in Chicago because my trip home from New York, New Jersey was a nightmare, but the being there itself was pretty cool. And I'm excited that Yankees baseball is back on my TV. Today's game 3 of spring training, and I know it's only spring training, but this is it. It's finally here. This is what we've been waiting for all off season. We've been waiting for the guys to be back on our TV. And this is an exciting time because you get to see the prospects, you get to see the non-roster invites, you get to see some of the guys who struggled last year with injuries or velocity issues have been working on things. And we get to start to nitpick our lineup, things that we love to do. So I'm just happy baseball's back.
Right. And Lori concurs. And just want to say good morning to everyone in the chat. Even if it is with a lot of scrubs. Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, good morning to all our early birds. And we have Numbers Guy. You're here today. Great to see you. We have Jonathan and Jared and FJ and Joe. Oh, it's so great to see you here. It's been a minute. And so I agree. It's just so good. And by the way, sorry that my voice sounds like I'm in witness protection program. Um, I have been fighting the flu. So Ciarra was away on business, like she just said. I was down for the count, and just now coming back alive. We'll see how this goes. I might just be mouthing my words at some point, but we're gonna go as long as I can. Um, so yeah, it's just so fun to see a baseball game again and see some new faces. And we haven't seen the familiars really a whole lot yet. But you know what? That's exactly what should be happening. I know that some people were saying, why are we waiting? Why is Judge resting already? He rested all winter. But I think this is exactly what at least I was calling for all off season was they better invite a lot of non-roster invitees. Let's get a sense of what's really down in the farm, what our prospects are really looking like, how much time left do they need. Are we perhaps going to see them come up? And will there be room on the 40 man for 1 or 2 of them? We don't know yet. And so I'm actually happy to be seeing these new faces, new names, and seeing how they gel. And speaking of new faces, new names, but not really new, but new to us. Also great to see Belly and Goldie out there. And I know that we're going to be getting into that. And spoiler alert, I already think I know what my first jersey pick of the new season is going to be. And so, but I'll save that till the end. But already sort of have an early favorite of the newbies. So, but let's just get right into things here. Hey, great to see you, Maza. Great to see you, Lou. And yeah, FJ, we're gonna get today's lineup up on the screen. It is a little weird, and we're gonna talk about it. Weird is a great word for a lot of what we're gonna be talking about today. But let's get right to the breaking news. Listen. So, Hal Steinbrenner did a thing, and it's caused all sorts of hell of fire across the Yankees universe. The camp is pretty evenly divided from my sense of things. And Ciarra and I are just asking for inclusion, like everybody else. Women belong in baseball. And so, we're just promoting our trim facial hair and saying if we want to, we could and we should. So Ciarra, what was your take on the facial hair policy?
I think I might be pushing it a little bit with my facial hair. I think it might be a little too long. I was happy about it. So I've actually been having this conversation for the past couple of weeks on Twitter before the news broke. I think the facial hair policy is outdated. I think it's arbitrary. I think I think it's silly, I guess is the best way to put it. If we are going to miss out on superstars because of facial hair, like Hal Steinbrenner said, we almost missed out on CC Sabathia. Could you imagine if we did not have CC Sabathia in 2009? Hall of Famer CC Sabathia because of facial hair? That hindsight is 2020. But all that aside, I don't think this policy shouldn't upset people as much as it does. Okay. People are crashing out saying that we're going against tradition and blah, blah, blah. Listen, the vice president of the United States has a beard. Okay. Disney World employees are now allowed to have tattoos and fun hair colors. Okay. New York City police officers now have facial hair. So the Yankees are just finally catching up with the rest of the world because, newsflash, it is 2025. But I will say, Hal Steinbrenner, in his press conference, he looked like he was in pain, like announcing this. Like he was like really wrestling with this. I think at the end of the day, he made the right decision. And I think it's important to note that he did have conversations with players. It wasn't like he just woke up and changed the policy. This is something that players have talked about, throughout the years in the locker room, at spring training camps. And I mean, look at poor Devin Williams. Okay, the guy has had a beard his entire career, and I'm sorry, he looks like a freaking weirdo without it. So,
yeah,
I think he had a big part to do with this. But he also, Steinbrenner said he talked to Judge, he talked to Cole, he talked to Stanton, the leaders in the locker room, and at the end of the day, this is what the players want, and I think the most important thing is that our tradition shouldn't rely on if we have facial hair or not. Our tradition should be winning the World Series. That is what makes the Yankees, is winning, not the facial hair policy. And I just need to throw that out there because I know there's a lot of people that are upset about this. Our tradition should be winning the World Series, with or without facial hair, okay? That's what it comes down to. Also, I do think it's kind of funny that this was announced when it was, and it kind of distracted us from the point that we don't have a third baseman, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Right. Actually, it was the first thing I was going to say is that the timing was just really weird and sus about this. and coming, I'm cool. I'm 60, but I'm cool, and I'm trying to use the lingo. But the thing is, it just why now? And this was like the second time, and we'll get into the other thing that was really weird timing in a minute, and I think everybody already knows what that's going to be. But first, it was just, and it did look painful to Hal, and maybe it was. I mean, the ghost of George is alive, and I'm sure for his children in a whole different kind of way. But I do just want to show a few of the reviews we're getting, Ciarra. So apparently you look diabolical.
I agree.
You look diabolical, and I look like I'm a serial robber of 7-Eleven stores worldwide. And Lori thinks we should both get a Fu Manchu. We were thinking about that, and that might be next, Lori. So stay tuned. So yeah, it's just, and Aaron Judge, Aaron Judge is always going to give milquetoast responses. I think we're just used to that by now. But to me, you read between the lines, he obviously didn't say absolutely not, because if he did, this wouldn't be happening, I think. But at the same time, and I'm not remembering the exact quote, he said that the rules that the Yankees have are important and what sets us apart from others. And what he's missing there is what you said, Ciarra, which I completely agree with. It's like, yeah, but really the thing is the 27 rings. That's the thing. And the need for the must get for the 28th. That's what holds us apart. It's going to be eons before anyone even gets close to us. So that's what will always hold us apart, unless we stay on the path we're on forever and ever and people start catching up.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I love Aaron Judge. He's our captain. He is the guy that has gotten so many kids into baseball, right? Because he's hitting 50, 60 home runs. He is the guy that you go he's the guy that when the Yankees come to Chicago, he's the reason that guaranteed rate field or rate field, whatever the hell it's called this year, fills up, right? Because they want to see Aaron Judge hit home runs. But with all that being said, Aaron Judge reminds me of the guy. Remember, like when you would have homework and your teacher would forget to collect it? He reminds me of the guy that'd be like, "Oh, you forgot to collect our homework." So then all the rest of us who forgot to do it are now like panicking, trying to get it because little Mr. Rule Follower over here, like I get it. Like he's saying, "Oh, he doesn't want other rules to change," but come on, Judge, you're 32 years old. Why are you acting like you're 75? It's not that serious.
Right. Yep. And so and now we have to think, okay, what are the girl dad vibes going to do here? Are they going to soften him even more than he's already soft? Because we don't need more soft. And so it's like we already have Boone, which will be our next thing we'll talk about. Walking that yabber dabber zone all the time. We really don't need two of them in tandem with each other like that. But I really hope for Devin Williams' sake that he's successful in growing his beard back, because it would really suck. And I know that this has happened to some men where you've had it for so long, you shave it, and it just doesn't come back the same way. I really hope. Listen, Devin, give us a call. We can hook you up on Canva at least, and so like all your photos can be doctored. So
also, I want to throw out there too. It's not like we're gonna have a bunch of Brandon Marshes running around. Like nobody wants that, right? Like Brandon Marsh, if you're listening to this, you look disgusting. You look like you don't shower. Nobody wants that. Like, and to Joe's point, the Yankees have specified well groomed, right? So we're not going to have a bunch of cavemen from the Geico commercial in the outfield. Right. We're not going to have Boston Red Sox Johnny Damon. It's just they're going to have some beards. And you know what? I will die on the hill that there are some players who never play the same without their beard. Carlos Rodon, San Francisco Giant Carlos Rodon with a beard is different than New York Yankee bald-faced Carlos Rodon. And I want to see that version of Rodon this season, not the Carl Pavano version that we've gotten.
May it be the only thing that's been holding him back. I'll do whatever it takes to get hair out of that man's face springing out. Because we're getting a Rodon too soon enough. And for me, I'm a traditionalist. I really am. And like Joe, I'm of the elder generation of Yankee fans. But I'm also old enough, as Joe is, to remember when this wasn't even a rule. Okay, this was a rule from the 70s. And I know a good lot of you weren't, even your parents didn't even think of each other back then, for crying out loud, right? So, the thing is, there was so many years of it, not this policy being in place, and the bulk of our rings happened in that era. So like there's nothing that's going to like be a taboo or a jinx on us for this. And it's a sign of the times, and a really odd moment and a really odd thing for Steinbrenner to focus on in terms of why this, why now. But you know what? Maybe he was getting a clue. Maybe he had some marketing folks that did some research and saying, look, you want to bring those younger fans in? You maybe we got to let loose on some things, because it's true, like beards and mustaches are the thing. You see it everywhere, on celebrities in the magazines, whatever. Who knows? Maybe this was a marketing stunt. Like, let's see if we sell more chicken buckets if we do away with the facial hair. And now you'll have a problem with me, Hal, if you go the route of changing the uniform, doing away with the no names on the back. I'm not talking about fans not having no names on the back of their jerseys. That's a whole other show, and that's a hill I'll die on, and a lot of you might not like it. But no names on the back of jerseys for players. Those things need to stick. So let's not get crazy with this. Let this be it for a while. You shut that door right back down, Hal. And don't get too feisty with this. Um, so yeah, and 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 you know what, FJ, I'm with you. We talked a little bit about, by now everybody's talked about this, as with the quick next breaking news thing we're going to talk about. But you know what? It's still fire all across Twitter and social media and articles and whatever. And hopefully it will start dying down.
It's a topic every season. Like every other fan base is always talking about us and our facial hair policy, and we amongst ourselves are always talking about it too, because it's just so arbitrary. It's so outdated. It's just a conversation that comes up every season. But this news was so big that while I was at work Friday, sitting in my office, my boss, who does not watch baseball because for whatever reason, sent me an article via Teams the minute the news broke. Like, that's how big of news this was across just media in general. But I agree, FJ. Like, this is something that we talk about every offseason. So maybe we as fans can stop fighting about it, because it's done, it's over. And I'm going to say to the fans that always said to me, stop crying about it. It's the policy. I'm going to say it right back to them. Stop crying about it. It's in the handbook now.
Right, exactly. Go read the handbook and leave us alone with this. So let's just get to the other breaking news, which oops, let me just take this down. Let's get this one over with also. I just want to get to the right slide. Yeah, so all right. Let's get this one. Let's pull this Band-Aid off too, because this news broke and it was like, this year's version of the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. It was like it was the shot heard around the world, and everybody, was going live about it and talking about it. So we'll do our part and touch on this as well. So Ciarra, what was your take? What was your instant reaction? And what do you think about this overall?
My instant reaction was, why are we announcing this right now? Like, we literally just had this whole saga about Marcus Stroman. Is he going to be a New York Yankee? Is he going to be a starter? Is he being dramatic? Whose fault is it? Is it Stroman's fault? Is it Cashman's fault? Is it Hal's fault? Is it Boone's fault? And then we have injuries. Literally, Boone says, oh, all the physicals came back fine. And then 30 seconds later, we have 70 freaking people injured. We have Stanton, who has no elbows. We have Grisham with a hamstring issue. We have Chase Hampton, who has now just, we'll get into that in a minute, but, UCL issues. I don't hate Aaron Boone. I don't have any ill will towards the guy, but I don't know how anyone could watch what happened in the World Series and think that announcing this right now was the best choice. We were obviously stuck with the guy for 2025 regardless. And I understand the players love him. And that was a big part of my argument last year for Aaron Boone, was that the clubhouse and the players love him. But we could have waited till the end of the season or midseason. We could have waited to see where it went. Announcing it now with everything else going on, like, it just seemed irrelevant. Like, there was other things to talk about. No, for instance, when they did the press conference for the facial hair policy, one of the reporters asked Hal and Cashman straight up, like, hey, what is going on with this self-imposed luxury tax that you're doing? Why are you not spending money? Like, basically indicating, why did you not go get a third baseman? There are more pressing issues than booger picking, bubble blowing Aaron Boone.
Okay. That was, I can't even laugh the way I want to, because then I'll go in spasms and you'll be doing the whole show by yourself. But so here's the thing. We knew this was coming. It's just a year early. And I know so many of you watching later in the chat now were on with the guys on when this broke. And the really solid point is, why now? Like, there's so many things that we've been clamoring for that were so timely that we lost out on great acquisitions in this off season. Why the frig now with this? This was at least a year early. why wouldn't you hang this over Boone's head and make him work for getting back into the World Series and, oh, I don't know, winning it before you decide if you're going to extend? This was like, this is what boggles my mind, is the timing of this. And it just makes zero sense. And I'm no businesswoman, but it just makes zero sense pragmatically. And so I just, oh, and FJ, let's see what you're saying here. Technically not an extension. They just picked up the option. Yeah, we're using the wrong word here, FJ. So thank you. Yeah, but, you do agree that, when the job's really on the line at the end of the season is the conversation. But, let's double down and let's give him, a couple of years extended. Let's do that right now. And so now we're stuck in the zone, right? We're stuck in the turning a corner, turn the page. It's right there in front of us. It's like a jail sentence no one wants to serve from that aspect. That being said, and then we'll move on, there could be no question that Aaron Boone knows his shit. He knows the game inside out. Hell, he was raised in it. And the thing is, he just and he did get us to the postseason. And he did, but the thing is, game 5 will forever be in our brains. I'll be in my rocking chair talking about game 5. And so he made some real blunders, but to be fair to him, he's not so seasoned getting that far, right? This is, and so, I just, at this point, we have no choice but to wish for the best, and just, it is what it is.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate for the pro Boone people. There can be an argument made that Boone is offering, like them extending Boone offers stability within the organization. Because if you look at the history of the Yankees, there was a long time where there wasn't a good tenure with our managers. They were being fired after a few seasons. Whereas Boone, he's been here since 2018, and he, along with Joe Torre, and I'm drawing a blank, there's a third one. There's only 3 Yankee managers ever who have made it to the postseason, and 6 out of their first 7 years with us. And he has regular season over 600 wins and 400 something losses. So he's over 500. So there can be an argument made that he offers stability, right? Like from an outsider's perspective, you see the Yankees, they have the same manager, they know what they're doing. But at the end of the day, my biggest issue is when you have a third base coach like Luis Rojas making the mistakes that he's making. To me, that comes down to Boone, because you are the manager. You are the guy that runs the clubhouse. You need to pull him aside and say, hey, stop making stupid ass mistakes. You're costing us games. Stop sending Giancarlo Stanton when the guy can't run. Stop sending Gleyber Torres when the guy can't run. Stop sending Juan Soto when the guy can't run. And then making the decisions that were made in the World Series. Game 1 of the World Series, and I know there can be arguments made on both sides of it, but bringing in Nestor Cortez, who publicly said that he is willing to ruin his arm because he's not 100% yet to win a World Series, overall, whether that was Boone or the front office, that was a bad decision. And you can't convince me otherwise. And then just when you look at game 5 as a whole, do I blame Boone for Judge dropping the ball? No. Do I blame Boone for Cole and Rizzo melting down at the same time? No, but I blame him for other things, right? I blame him for the fact that your ace can't get out of the inning because there's bad defense. Bad defense comes down to you as a manager not instilling those fundamentals in your major league players and not doing the drills that need to be done. But also, when the guy is melting down and you're not going out there to interrupt the inning and give him a break when that's what you should be doing as a manager, you or Matt Blake, right? That is on you as the manager of the New York Yankees, right? You didn't do anything to help your superstar in that moment. So therefore, you didn't do anything to stop us from melting down and embarrassing ourselves and losing game 5. Also, do we not, I know we were doing it now. We just saw videos of it, but do we not practice PFPs? Why was there so much communication issue between a veteran Rizzo and a veteran Cole? Rizzo has won a World Series, right? That shouldn't have been an issue. to me, that all comes down to who is managing, and that is Aaron frickin' Boone. That is my issue.
Right. Yep. And yet here we are. So it is what it is. It's not what you want, but it is what it is. And Nestor, now Nestor is gone for other places, and so we'll be talking about who we have remaining, obviously, as we go along. But let's get to a few hot takes, shall we? Let's get into the drop it like it's hot stuff. So I want to shout out those of you on X who follow Medic968, Eric. So this seemed really great to bring up right now, especially since I pretty much within 5 seconds of going live brought up Rodon's name. He's hot take. I don't trust Carlos Rodon that much more than Marcus Stroman. I'd have Rodon fighting for his spot in the rotation as much as Marcus Stroman. What do you do with that, Ciarra?
All right, so my opinion's a little biased because I am the biggest Marcus Stroman fan, and I am hashtag Team Stro all the way when it comes to this whole drama. And I am also Carlos Rodon's biggest hater, and I have been for the last 2 seasons. But with that being said, my hope for Rodon this season is he is now a number 3 pitcher. He doesn't have to be a number 2. With a healthy Garrett Cole, he doesn't have to be an ace. We have Cole and we have Fried. I hope that takes the pressure off of Rodon. And honestly, I would actually like to see the Yankees slot Luis Gil as number 3 and push Rodon to 4 just to change it up. But either way, I hope that takes the pressure off of Rodon because then maybe he can pitch better. Yes, did he have 16 wins last season? Yes. But first half and second half Carlos Rodon, totally different players. Also, playoff Rodon, totally different player. He doesn't perform well under pressure. And my biggest issue with Rodon is he likes to give up home runs. And he gives up more home runs to the number 9 hitter than anybody else in baseball. Like, what is that all about? Is he getting tired like the second or third time through the order? Or I don't know what it is, but he and Matt Blake need to sit down and figure that one out because he can't be giving up bombs left and right in Yankee Stadium this season.
Right.
That's got to be fixed. I also think it's going to come down to who our catchers are for the season. Obviously, Wells will be our catcher, but who our backup is because the catcher does make a difference sometimes with the pitcher. I mean, we see it with Cole. And we don't know. Maybe it's the same thing with Rodon. As of right now, as it stands, I'm still his biggest hater, but I hope he can prove me wrong.
I really hope that he could prove me wrong as well. And yesterday's outing was such a obviously tiny sample size, but you would I don't know. And I always say I'm gonna manage my expectations, so I don't want to be a hypocrite. But for crying out loud, when you look at the graphs from his pitches yesterday, it was a bloodbath all over the map. So it was like, am I looking at a forensics, report, or no, it's Rodon and his pitches, in the 2 innings pitched. So it's like, it's your first time back, and I don't want to liken this to last season when it was like, wow, that mountain air, what we saw when he got back. And I know it's just a few pitches. So don't come at me in the chat. But if you do, that's fine. I could take it. And I expect it. But the thing is, this is your first outing. And you're right. Fair enough. And I don't recall who caught yesterday, and other than it wasn't Wells. Right. So where was the command? Where was the location? And just that I know Eric's hot take was very early on, and I just thought I would stir the pot on it. And
yeah, Ben Rice caught yesterday. The birthday boy was started. Yeah, I mean, it's spring training, right? Like, they're not pitching full games. They're working out the kinks. But what else are we going to do during spring training other than nitpick what they're doing? Right? Like, we're trying to figure out who's going to be on our roster, who's going to be our 1 through 5 starter, who's going to be our leadoff hitter, who's going to be our backup catcher, who's going to be our DH. Like, there's a lot you're trying to figure out in spring training, and we have about 30 days until, just over 30 days until opening day. It's going to come quick. So, yeah, it's spring training, but you got to figure this stuff out and nitpick it and get these things under control.
Ken, you seem to be throwing a lot of things back at us. So with these questions, and so let me just take them and end with the Rodon ones. Tell me which manager out there makes no mistakes. I don't think either Ciarra and I said that there's ever been a perfect manager, nor will there ever be one. One has never existed. So nobody said that. So no, I'm not going to tell you that. There is none. So it's a rhetorical question, but I'm highlighting it because we're here to give our opinions, Ken, just like you're here to give yours.
I think
what's up with these rhetorical questions?
I just want to say too, when it comes to the winning percentage, and because I did mention that, I did say I'm going to play devil's advocate. He does have, just like Torrey, 6 out of 7 of his first seasons, he made it to the playoffs. However, the difference is Joe Torre won us how many World Series rings? Like that, I think that's what the difference is, and that's what we remember Joe Torre for is when I say we, I mean you guys, because I was a baby, but the dynasty years, right? Like that's what people remember Joe Torre for. But also the whole thing with Nestor Cortez, like I understand his numbers against Ohtani and Betts, like I do, but you're taking a guy who hadn't pitched in, I don't know, over a month versus, and listen, I'm not an MLB manager, so I could be completely wrong, but Tim Hill was our hot hand lefty at that point in the playoffs. Ride the hot hand in that. Sometimes you have to not, and this is my whole issue with the Yankees front office in general. Sometimes we need to steer away from the analytics and just use baseball common sense. Like you're taking a pitcher who has come out on the record and said he is not 100%. He hadn't pitched in over a month. I don't care what his numbers were, in the last 17 seasons. Tim Hill had given up one run through the playoffs at that point. Right. And I understand someone's going to push back and say, well, a single would have won the game at that point too. Okay. But a single would have been less embarrassing than a walk-off grand slam. I just want to throw that out there. But either way, like my whole point is ride the hot hand of Tim Hill because hindsight's 2020 at this point. We already lost the game. So who knows what would have happened if you put Tim Hill in. Right.
We won't. And Sean, I totally get your point. And I know that's part of where Ken was going as well. You want to use this for trying out specific pitches, but you also have that during your workouts with each other, right? So I'm sure Rodon had the opportunity to do that when he was throwing his pitches from the mound before these games. So, but I get the point there, guys. Believe it or not, I understand spring training and what it means. And that it has zero impact, but it is an opportunity to notice some things and form an opinion on them and have it proven out one way or the other. So it's just, and I understand, and I think I said about 12 times it was the tiniest of sample sizes. I did say that, and Rodon, they're saying, I forget who said it above. Was key in the postseason before the World Series.
I'm gonna disagree because I saw the comment. It said that he was one of our hottest pitchers in the postseason, but we only won one game in the World Series, guys. Like we lost 4 games to 1. So I don't care if he was the best pitcher. His best wasn't good enough. None of their best was good enough. Like that. And I'm not trying to be negative. I really am not. I'm normally the most positive Yankee fan there is. But to make it to a World Series after 15 years, right? Like you guys have all seen plenty. The only one I remember was 2009. Okay? So to make it there after 15 years and to just the Dodgers, yes, they played good, but we embarrassed ourselves with the fundamentals. That's what it comes down to. And our starting pitchers, I'm sorry, our starting pitchers were not that good. Our bullpen saved our ass in the postseason.
100.
And like our bullpen was fantastic in the postseason. I do not give credit to the starters at this point.
Absolutely. And the thing is, you want to talk about the pride, the power, the traditions of the Pinstripes. It's not a successful season unless you win the World Series. So, and this goes to the earlier point about Boone. Yes, we could look at his postseason percentages, and I happen to be aware of those as well, by the way. But it doesn't matter. What matters is when you get there, and that's the entire point. Or at least, it matters to some fans, maybe not to others, and that doesn't discredit our road to the World Series.
Right.
Absolutely thrilling, and we were so hungry for it. We ate it up like Thanksgiving. But the thing is, if things had been different, and we'll never know if they would have been, we weren't outmatched. We were out fundamentaled and out baseball IQ, to Ciarra's point. We really did have a fighting chance with the Dodgers. And so um and so that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm going to go to the other hot topic before I get hotter, which I'm about to. So I didn't catch this user's name, but this is really, I hesitate to put this out there, Ciarra. Um, Somebody wants to make the case for bringing Rizzo back, and here's their case. Their their case is just have him on the bench as a DH if needed, or a lefty bat if needed. Um, there's no doubt that he was a clutch hitter last season when it counted, including in the postseason. And I'm trying to say this as enthusiastically, for this person, but he had good at bats in October. So why not just have him there as other than the money, and he's gone.
I'm gonna say no, thank you on that one.
And listen, I'm not promoting this, by the way. Go ahead.
This is no disrespect to Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo was one of the biggest trades we had in a long time, and I live in Chicago, so Anthony Rizzo means a lot to the city that I live in, okay? So he was once a very good baseball player, but the guy has had the freakiest injuries for the last 2 seasons. Like, I don't blame him for his concussion. I think the Yankees really screwed up on that one. Tatis Jr. and him, when they collided, like, the medical staff did that guy no justice. But then he broke his freaking arm or his wrist or whatever he broke last season. He just hasn't been the same player for the last 2 seasons. His bat speed is down. He can't run, and that's no disrespect. He's a Gold Glover. He's a World Series champion. And I hate the idea of thinking that this is how his career ends with how it went out in 2024. Very sad. He doesn't deserve that. But if you look at the fact that guys like Tim Anderson and Joey Gallo have jobs and Rizzo doesn't, there's clearly a reason. Right? Like other teams are seeing the same thing we saw with the injuries, and just some guys, they age worse than others. His 34 is, equivalent to 40, and that's okay. Like I said, he had a great season. If this is how it ends, it's sad, but
yep.
It's not like he doesn't have a good season to hang his hat on, or a good career to hang his hat on. I'm sorry.
And look at Laurie. Laurie is usually also a great comic relief when we need it. But she's spitting out the reason here, voice of reason. It's better to get rid a year early than a year late. And so I just, we didn't get enough hotness in here yet.
I'm going to answer this one and say my opinion, because I don't know. I'm not his agent. I'm not a GM. My opinion on Alex Verdugo is, if you look at his numbers every season, and Boston fans told us this, right? First half, Alex Verdugo, great player. Second half, Alex Verdugo, terrible player. And it's consistently like that. And look, we don't have proof of this. He was only in New York first season, but they did say in Boston the guy was a clubhouse cancer. So if he really is an issue, that he could be his own reason why he doesn't have a job. It is interesting, though. You have 2 guys who were just on a World Series roster who don't have a job yet. I mean, look at Kike Hernandez. He was the last Dodger to get re-signed. They signed the freaking Avengers before they brought him back, and he was a huge part of their World Series. So I don't know, but my take on it is Alex Verdugo is the reason that Alex Verdugo doesn't have a job.
Yeah. I think, there's something about a track history that factors into things that we don't necessarily know. Question from Joe for you, Ciarra.
I actually grew up in the Albany, New York area, Joe. So I was born and raised a Yankee fan. I moved to Chicago for college, and I've just been here since.
And she stayed loyal. So, like most expatriates do, of Yankee fans. So let's just pivot to some other things, maybe even a little bit pleasant. Um, and so you gotta love. Can we just give a moment of praise for the whoever runs the Yankees media, whoever runs the Yankee account, for bringing us like the good stuff, the hype, the oh we love these guys, reminding us all the time. I mean, let my background tell the tale. Um, we even have things going around on X about what should we call them. And so my word for the Luke Clark thing is Cleaver. I think that this is Team Cleaver. We have Clark and the Dreamweaver, besties, and I just love their personalities together. I hope the Weave show becomes a thing. I hope what is it now?
Leaves girl.
Gotham takes it on. So Weaver forever. I want him to be a forever. Don't dare go anywhere. But just as exciting as all of those fun little clips is this right here. This gives me life. Just soaking this picture up. And first of all, what happened to Gator? I mean, these guys are not that tall. And I know that we old folks shrink a bit as we get older, but he is absolutely eclipsed here. And right in the middle is the next one, right? The next Hall of Fame ballot. But to have these guys in camp, it has to be so magical and so important, and another big part of the culture that this organization has grown. When we say homegrown, we like to think of from the farm all the way up and out. But this is also the homegrown. This is highest level homegrown. To have these guys back, to have the Rocket back. I mean, this is his first time at camp in my memory. And so, and Lori saying, "Oh God, give Lynn some lemon water." Mama needs some bourbon, Lori. A little early though. But
I am personally excited about Alex Rodriguez being in camp. I've been screaming justice for A-Rod for the longest time. I know he's not in this picture. I think the announcement came after this was already taken. But Alex Rodriguez, who deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame, by the way.
Yes, I agree.
Who carried us in the 09 World Series to be in camp for these young guys, especially, and I'm going to say this, and I hope this doesn't upset anybody, but those younger guys who come from the Dominican Republic or Venezuela or who aren't necessarily from the United States, to see somebody like Alex Rodriguez in camp with them, like that's a huge deal. I'm super here for it. The only other guy that I really want to see, and so, Didi Gregorius was there. Justice for Jabba Chamberlain. Can we get Jabba to camp, please? Like, I would love to see Jabba at spring training in camp with them. I think that would be cool, but I'm super excited, super stoked for A-Rod to be there. Honestly, if A-Rod could still play, just tell him to put the uniform on and we'll use him at third base. He's got to be better than DJ at this point.
Solve our problems. And so, and Sean saying, Matsui's there too.
Love it.
Listen, oh my God, Hidetaka Matsui is a legend in my book. If he's there, then this would be a different photo. Like, this to me is like, the greats surrounding our current great, right? Of pitchers. And so let's get that picture of Matsui and A-Rod, and I'd love Didi to stick around and not just take photos. Let's
can he play third base?
and he coached first for a bit there. Yeah, could he play third? Hey, we'll take what we could get. So this is just made my heart happy, and we need things to be happy about.
But I think it's something to take away from all this too, with Clemens being there, with A-Rod being there, like it shows that the Yankees can grow and they can move on, because A-Rod was obviously one of the biggest scandals in the history of baseball and for the Yankees. So the fact that he can be there and be around these guys, like I think that's a huge deal, because I know there's always questions about the Yankees organization and are they family friendly? Are they this? Are they that? This shows that we can grow. Between that and the facial hair policy, like we are moving on up in the world.
I know. You would think it would, yeah. It's like they're a little bit late for the new millennium, but they're catching up. So that's good. And you know what? I've grown, in my opinion, for A Rod as well. Um, we certainly, it's a struggle for me to say that he belongs in the Hall of Fame. Um, but you know what? And I'm not going to go down the road of, but the rules were meant for others. Why not for him? Rules is rules. And, we could have a whole show about how those ballots are, rated and the unfairness and unevenness of it. That's very clear. But he most certainly deserves to be a representation of the Yankees and in this forum, molding these young players. He's great in the booth as well, too, by the way. You can't take that away from him. He knows his game. And so I'm growing. I'm learning and growing. Um, all right, so let's recap this week. We've had 2 games. We have a third one coming up at 1:00. What are your takes so far? Who's making you interested? Who's piqued your interest so far, Ciarra?
All right, so we're 1-1 in spring training so far. We took the first game, we lost the second game. Shout out to Marcus Stroman. He looked good in his 1-inning first outing. He gave up 2 singles, but no earned runs. So shout out to him for that. Cody Bellinger, listen, his first at bat with a single, moving Dominguez from first to third, and then Goldie coming up and just missing the home run, but driving in Belly and Dominguez. Like, I was ecstatic. I know it's spring training, but you would have thought if you would have saw me in my office Friday afternoon watching this game, you would have thought that I was insane because I was super excited. With that being said, I think Bellinger right now is kind of my standout because he showcased some really good defense too. There was one play where he scooped the bounce in center field and got it to Jazz and picked off the runner at second. Also, for Jazz to have the heads up, like to be able to get it and reach, that was huge too. As Glaber's only fan, it was refreshing to see a second baseman have, some heads up movement there. But anyway, so Belly's my standout right now. But I do want to say there was some disappointing defense in game 1. Volpe, I don't know if he's just a little rusty from being off for a few months, but my God, you are a Gold Glover. Get it together. He looked pretty bad in those first few innings, just in the field. And then Dominguez also had a little bit of an oopsie moment in left field, but I digress. It's spring training. He'll get better. I'm going to be positive. But yeah, Stroman and Belly are my takeaways from that.
Yeah. Belly is right up there in my book. He is my potential first jersey of the season. And I also think that we've seen a good swinging action from Goldie. Obviously, at first he's, there's nothing remarkable because he's remarkable in that position. And I'm really optimistic that we're going to be pleasantly surprised at the stopgaps here, and that let's see how Goldie does. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic about that. And FJ, you're absolutely right. And Jared backs it up with a question that I think is also a fair one. But he did look good. I think the question is, what's with the 1 inning?
Listen, the Yankees are starting to frustrate me with this whole Stroman saga. And listen, guys, I can go on a 30-minute rant about this. I think the media is waiting for Stroman to say something bad. They're waiting for this guy to have a meltdown. But honestly, he's holding his composure pretty well for the given, scenario. He knows that he's the number 6 pitcher right now. He knows that they're either trying to trade him or shove him back in the bullpen. And he hasn't said anything wrong. He hasn't said anything crazy. So I feel like they are doing him an extreme injustice. That's a better way to put it, Jarrett. They're doing him dirty. They did him dirty in the World Series. They're doing him dirty now. The guy gets a bad rap. And I won't get into it because I know we're short on time, but I feel like we don't know because of the things he said after he left the Mets organization. That will always be hung over Stroman's head, even though he has never shown that side of him with us. Even through this whole drama, he has kept his composure, and I guess that's all I can say about it. Because at the end of the day, if you look at Stroman's career numbers, any team could utilize him as a 4-5 pitcher. I posted his numbers anonymously on Twitter one day, asking, "Is this a good pitcher?" And overall, most people said yes. Until I finally came out and said, "Well, it's Marcus Stroman," and then everyone was like, "Whoa, let's pump the brakes." So if you just look at his numbers, Marcus Stroman is a good pitcher, and I'm really hoping he stays healthy and has a bounce back year, because the guy he deserves, to go out and just have a good season.
Yeah. And you know what? Yeah, he did the Devers thing and said, I am not a bullpen pitcher. I am a starter. But the truth is, he was brought on as a starter, and they put him in the bullpen and did not utilize him during the World Series. So what was even the point of that? To the point of, both of you, they're playing games with him for absolutely no reason. And everybody was concerned. Yes, I'm being, I'm assuming everybody, okay, me, but I know I'm not alone, was concerned about him coming on. Is he going to be a clubhouse cancer? What's with all these chains weighing him down? And the thing is, he was the opposite of that. And that little moment, all Judge had to do was give him a little word about an attitude adjustment. And that was early on in the season. Everyone remembers, I think you're not in your head at least, that, hey, you don't do that hissy fit, to another player, especially in front of company. And there's about 3 million people watching right now. Cut it out. And he was straight and narrow right after that. So, and just because he's not a high velo pitcher, if he gets back to that location that he was brought here for and be that ground ball pitcher that we brought him here to be.
With good defense behind him.
With good defense behind him. And dare I say, at least the company word is an improved defense behind him, then let him do his thing. So, but we're going to see, because a 6-man rotation is I don't know how that mess gets juggled around.
I will say, and I didn't think about this until the other day. So Clark Schmidt, great guy, great pitcher, right? Like last season, he was probably our best pitcher until he got hurt. But the guy cannot stay healthy. He already has a barking back in spring training. So having a six starting pitcher might work in our favor at this point, because you have Clark Schmidt, who has injury history. You have Carlos Rodon, who has back issue history. Max Fried doesn't always stay healthy. We don't know how Garrett Cole's elbow is going to be. Also, Luis Heel sometimes has issues. So I don't know, guys. I think it could work in our favor to keep Stroman around. I'm just saying.
And I'm team you on that one. And so, oops, I keep doing that. So, hey, John, good to see you. Brings up a point that I know you want to make, Ciarra. About Yankees better get a better third baseman.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I took this graphic right from MLB TV on Friday when I was watching the spring training game, and these are your options for the 2025 third base. Now, looking at just numbers, clearly Oswald Peraza is probably your guy, right? But with that being said, Peraza is someone who we've played head games with, right? We've the back and forth, and because of that, he's never been really able to hit in the actual MLB. So yes, he played very well in the minors last season, but every time we brought the guy up, he doesn't perform well. Jorbit Vivas, we only saw him on the bench for a weekend last season, so I guess we got to see what he can do in spring training. Lynn and I have talked like at length about Cabrera. We both like Cabrera, but he is your utility guy who comes off the bench. He is not an everyday starter. And if the New York Yankees continue to try to convince me that DJ LeMahieu can still play third base every day, I am going to throw my TV out the window because he cannot. No offense to DJ, but we are going down the same route that we went with Aaron Hicks, Joey Gallo, and Josh Donaldson. Just eat the freaking money, okay? Like, I understand it's a big contract, but we're trying to win a World Series, and DJ LeGroundout isn't going to help us do that. I'm sorry. He's a shell of himself. Unless he took like some Michael Jordan Space Jam water shot or something, like he's not going to do it. I'm sorry. And I don't want to watch him all of 2025 struggle because it's not fair to us as fans, but it's also not fair to him. Imagine being the player that you once were and now being this player. Like, that's got to hurt. Like, it's got to be embarrassing at this point.
And so then who? If not him, if not any of these, then who? I mean, Arenado, that whole drama is still going on, but I think we sailed the ship away on Arenado. And Ken, I actually have Squid down in my notes for something less positive. I thought that in position yesterday, he bobbled some balls that really, with the exception of maybe one of them, his defense wasn't looking so hot yesterday. And so not just yesterday, but I'm not so sure that he's the answer here either. And not to mention we'd have to get him up and signed on the 40-man. But this is Squid's return. I'm not even so sure why he's back. And Squid is supposed to have, I think, like 10 arms. Like use a couple of them and make all your plays, man.
Listen, I think the best option for us is an external option, but it's not going to happen. We are getting one of these 4 options right here, whether we want it or not, at least until the All-Star break. I could see us making a trade at the All-Star break, and maybe that's when we try to flip Stroman at this point. But I wanted to highlight this comment because I 100% agree with you, Egyptian Magician. It's not even that Hal is cheap. Cashman doesn't know how to allocate money. That's the bigger issue. And that's why this Stroman $18 million contract is as big of an issue as it is, because we don't allocate funds correctly. And that's why we have a stopgap. And look, I'm getting on the Goldie train. I'm not hating on him, but that's why we have a stopgap at first base. That's why we don't have a third baseman. We haven't had a first baseman. We had Rizzo, but we haven't had a third baseman or a left fielder or a leadoff hitter in like 10 years, maybe more. So yes, we do not allocate funds correctly. Cashman needs to get it together, and Hal needs to tell his uncle, his godfather, whatever the hell Cashman is to him at this point, that he needs to figure out how to spend money better.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? We know we don't break many rules. We just broke a major one and got rid of it. But like, go over the luxury tax. If there's any time to do it, it's now. This is not working. Third base is too important. And let's look beyond the nose in front of our face and think the future. Because at least we have a secured first baseman now for a year. If we're going to be back in the same spot a year from now, meeting both sides of the horn again,
we're going in on Vladdy.
Yeah, and Vladdy is a whole show of his own. We're running out of shows to have. And Jonathan is saying that he guesses Peraza.
I agree.
I think that's what makes the most sense. Peraza's fire isn't out. They've played the head games with him, but Peraza's putting himself out there with some pretty good attitude about him and opinion of himself.
He looked good in the first spring training game too.
Sure
his first at bat, he sure had a single. Did. So
yep. So so there is definitely that, and so in terms of today's lineup, let's just get to that real fast. All right, so here we go.
I hate it.
Here we go with another game. Again, experiment. Let's try things out. But we got Chisholm starting off. What's everyone feeling about that? And Ciarra, starting with you, of course.
Listen, I don't like Jazz or Volpe as a leadoff hitter. Something I really want to see the Yankees do this season is run, right? I want to see them utilize their fast guys because we actually have a few. Jazz Chisholm had 40 stolen bases last season, which before they announced it, I didn't even know he was even close because he didn't play for us the first half of the season, and the Yankees don't steal bases, right?
Yeah.
So if you put Jazz or Volpe in the leadoff, you are taking away a huge part of their game because they're not. We saw it last season with Volpe when he was leadoff. They did not let him run in front of Soto and Judge. They're going to do the same. I would assume they're doing the same thing this season where if you're in front of Judge, because I'm assuming he's getting moved back up to the 2, they're not going to let you run. So for that alone, I don't want to see Jazz or Volpe as the leadoff. Now, I don't like this roster construction in general, but I guess I will give them the benefit of the doubt and say it's just spring training. So they're just throwing it together and saying, have fun. But please, for the love of God, Aaron Boone, do not put something like this together when the season starts because I might actually cry.
Yeah, and this is definitely, with a few exceptions that make actual sense, this is definitely from spaghetti on the wall time, because you have 2 catchers in the lineup. So you have Ciarra DHing, and Jackson behind the plate. So good, let's see the production out of Ciarra on the offense, because in my mind, in terms of what's going to be behind Wells. Our options are getting slimmer. So is it, to me, it really is like Jackson or Ciarra at this point. Rodriguez, I'm not even that familiar with, but he's the third. So it's all really interesting. Duke Ellis, seems
my favorite guy.
Yeah, that's it. And so we'll just and Peraza, like we were just saying, at third. So we'll get some more sampling of him today. And Sean Boyle, good luck. Happy to see what you got. Any last thoughts before we say goodbye to our friends?
I mean, I'm just happy baseball's back. I don't even care if it's spring training. We are playing the Tigers today, so I don't know what the Tigers' plans are. Glaber was not in their lineup yesterday, so I'm curious to see if he comes in at some point today because I would just love to see how he's doing as a Tiger over there. He grew his facial hair within like 30 seconds of being there. It was super weird, and I know this is off topic, but seeing Gleyber Torres and Javi Baez field ground balls together was like insane to me. That I never thought I would see the day. And it's funny because Glaber's obviously my favorite player. My nephew, who was a Cubs fan, his favorite player was always Javi Baez. So just seeing them together on the same field was just very, I guess bittersweet is the right way to say it. But yeah, so I'm excited. Baseball's back. Cannot wait for opening day. We are so close. We're so close to just like regular season baseball and just 162 games of me yapping away to everybody online about the New York Yankees.
Yeah, and I just happen to know that it's 32 days till opening day. Not that I'm counting. And John, you know what? I'm tired of the napping too. That could always be a hot take on any show. Let's stop with the napping. And I understand why they're resting their players now as long as they can. But yeah, it gets a little bit ridiculous, and we don't have the luxury. We don't have the necessarily the depth in all the spots we want the depth to even play with nappy time. So I'm with you on that. As for me, I just want to give a quick Women in Baseball mention. If you haven't seen the documentary See Her, Be Her, which is all about following the women in baseball during the international games, it's coming to a city near you potentially. It's going to be in theaters in 12 cities all throughout this season. It's already started with this spring training and all the way through October, and there'll be Q&As afterwards. So the website is, let me give it to you, seeherbeher.com, and check it out to see if it's coming to an area near you. It's also on Prime Video for just $1.99. It is such a good watch. So if you have any interest whatsoever in what women are doing in baseball, and keep in mind that professional league has begun for women in baseball. It's a true thing now, everybody. Check it out. I saw it, and it's really worth the watch. So that's going to be a wrap for Ciarra and me this week. I thank you everybody for hanging in there with us. We missed you last week. We'll be back next week. And as always, you have a reserved seat with Ciarra and me right here on the upper deck. And for the first time in a long time, let's go Yankees.